Shelley here with Sirius Dallas Moon. Mercury hour, Mercury day. Mercury is 22 and in Pisces. Venus is in the toxic degree, 18 degrees. So, people with Venus return right now. First of all, if y'all feeling deprived of love that is actually loving, you're not imagining. And I want to talk about the aftermath of um, the Epstein files, soon to be the Rolodex files, because that one got Saturn return too. And I want to talk about it from a different perspective. So I've been tending to political assassination prevention, and that is how I got to look at what I thought was one psychopath that kidnapped girls and raped them and tortured them in his basement. That was the Rolodex. From a different point of view, because those things are also a vehicle in both extorting um, military people, military decision-making people, um, prime ministers, um, business people, academic people. Basically, I think up until then I didn't understand fully what happened in academia. To me, it was like there's a weird trafficking ring there. I said no, bye bye. I'll take a break from the academia, and then I do astrology. So and aromatherapy, echt. But um, and then in the meantime, I also tried to see a psychologist who was a recruiter for Epstein. There's no way I can with all the rituals because now that guy um, was tortured, and I begin to see the I wouldn't even call it deed, but I begin to see the things that I went through on the faces of very familiar people because in the beginning it's like who's gonna understand me? Who's going to understand what is this dumb fuckery that I'm dealing with? Um, and at that time I don't connect that to research at all. And then I see quite famous faces seeming to dealing with quite similar frequency problems. Um, I would later listen to people like Annika Lucas um, and all kind of podcasts where the information relevant to what I do would arise, and I would immediately understand that the people that they are extorting were created to be extorted, meaning they were also abused. Um, so at the aftermath of the Epstein files, the many things that weren't connecting begin to connect. Think about it. Think about it, me too. That person sexually harassed, that person sexually harassed, that person sexually harassed. Not even talking about children. So that means that the people that make the decisions that are supposed to be representative are suffering with their sexuality. They basically have misaligned sexuality. Because the way it is, think about it with food. When people are eating, I don't know, junk food, okay, when they are actually nourished, they don't crave the junk food. And when people are actually growing to love that is actually loving, they don't, and are born from orgasmic conception, willing consent conception. I'm not talking about C-section on C-section. Those things can easily be fixed when the other things are good. No, I do address that. When there is such pressure to bring children, okay, and those things are done in cloning farms. The Epstein and the Detroits, they are considered breeders. We have some business people that had a lot of children. It's a part of them being a breeder in the network. Um, and they're made, it's not even sex addicts. They're made addicts to be perpetrators, or addicts so that they would bring children. Um, and the people are programmed to have even toxic values regarding appearance, forced gender changes. So sometimes people don't even know. And to that, everything is being humiliated, drugged, and raped, and then called whore for being humiliated, drugged, and raped. Um, and and if people have to run this extortion calls, so be recruiters or bring people to the network. Of course, it affects the military, which is supposed to defend our zero rape society. um, the juristic system, which role is not to punish, but to protect basically our zero rape society. The prison system, whose role is not to smuggle someone through a tunnel to the island so that they can continue to, while perpetuating confinement and um, keeping them sadistic. Well, they got caught maybe because they were trying to defend someone they're missing from the network. That's not, it's not how we're marketed these news, because every single one of them is not even the tip of the iceberg. And the healing professions that are supposed to be in the context of a bait, to think that a person is going to receive love or receive belonging, receive healing, and it's like, well, what about the millions of child rapes and satanic cults and sacrifice and all these things that the people you consolidate wealth with do? Because that's our housing, that's our job opportunities. It's also our regulated nervous system, ability to be vulnerable, loving, and loved. Also down there. Um, Even in trauma bond and misplaced arousal settings, the thing that works is when the nervous system is in regulated state. The thing that works is when it's not about domination. And then in those societies, everything has to be about trauma bond and domination. We get, oh, the Bhagavad Gita, the Anunnaki, and so on. They also say sex is power. Sex is sex. Sex is love. Power is power. Confusing the two is how we got here, is how children were raped so that they will begin to see sex as power. And then what does this child that went through this once? The mutilated bodies of the entire world. They were, unless they're somehow exposed to love, to the frequency that people are exposed to love that is actually loving, they want to perpetuate love that is actually loving. They want people to heal. They want, but he can't be doing that, trafficking people, perpetuating the very. They can't be doing that in perpetuating slavery. And then, but all these people that like, they wonder, somebody lives, where did they go? Are they here? Are they not here? They can't live with rape-based, slavery-based, um, trafficking-based society. That's the meaning of the Epstein files. It's not up there. It's every single. It's your child going to therapy, being molested. It's the people. It's scientific paradigms not being brought to the public. Did you know that they could make a death row or an Epstein safe to children? And the only way to prevent is to curate. And they have the tools. But they rather make the whole world a death row before they do that. Which means to torture people in confinement as children, and then to only give them love when they predate on little boys and girls. Mercury is opposing the lot of fortune for Netherlands 1800 chart, which is how I started to tend to political assassination prevention. It's not something that can be swept under the rug. People, the entire healing profession, a healer cannot even be, people learn whether it's through hypnosis or energy healing or whatnot, whichever method. The child is going to explode in front of the therapist. The inner child of the adult is going to explode in front of the therapist. Wait a second, does your business also traffic children? Does your business do human trafficking? It's not even the tip of the iceberg. People are in a boom of facing their societies. Because what is therapy? Therapy is asking, what about me? What about me being loved and loving? Oh, wait a second, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Then they say, well, something happened in infanthood, something happened in the astral, something happened in your dream state. Something came from somewhere. I grew up in a society of predators that blame it and project it on every walking thing that doesn't want to be a predator. And nobody cared to notice, nobody cared because there was nobody that was loving. And they just sacrificed. And all of these instances of love in those societies were bait. It explodes in everybody's life. And then they want people to look normal, to pretend it's normal. There's nothing normal about that. Why is so and so single? Are they lesbian? Are they gay? Are they? Is this society a fucking Nazi society that has no love? What is relationship about? Love that is actually loving. What is sex about? Sexuality that is love that is actually loving. Venus here in this degree is showing us what chronically went wrong since seed and egg. Okay, Jupiter exalted in Cancer. Um, Venus exalted in Pisces. Venus looks into the depth of the deep. Um, great crystal to work with. Malachite. For anything, for anything Venus toxic basically means everything that I just said. So malachite is a great crystal to work with. Um, because malachite dredges these topics up from the reckoning. If you go to any, and you know what, and you know what I would say. A lot of people say, "Oh, I should not go to therapy." It's not about being a nihilist. Just like with wealth, it's not about being. Remember I was thinking, make my real estate real, even if it's a tent in the woods. You know what? Tent in the woods is luxury. Where I come from in Netherlands. Try to put a tent somewhere. A car was luxury tax. Um, but this is Um, but this is understanding that it's not about, oh, I'll be modest, I'll be this. It's about, how should I say that? If nobody loots those assets in Monaco and make them zero rape, zero slavery, they're just going to be the places where those things are done. And when it comes to, just like when, one of the things, and um, I hope Annika Lucas did not misunderstand me when I talked about the gurus that rape children. Because while refraining from sexuality can be healing to meet our non erotic needs, it's not about not addressing our sexuality. Um, because the antidote to all these things is love that is actually loving, an orgasm that is from love that is actually loving, body, heart, mind, and soul. That's the curation from rape. In a setting that honors and respects, whether it's a relationship or love me, the self, the erotic self, the non erotic self, knows when the child self is arising, not to be sexual with the child self. That's the antidote. That's the curation. When it comes to people going to therapy, it's not about refraining from healing ourselves. It's about exploding that. Ask it, hey, are you trafficking children? Hey, this thing you're showing me with either hypnosis or healing or whatnot. Hey, that seems like this experience of love seems to be like something I didn't have. What were the things preventing that? Oh, those were the things prevent. Hey, isn't your business mixed with doing those things? And if it's not, how do you defend from that? How do you defend me? Are you ready as a therapist to have this thing exploding? Because this is not even that I'm not even the tip of the iceberg. My case is not even the tip of the iceberg. And yet I don't want people to not live out their dreams and goals. At the aftermath of the just like at the aftermath of the Me Too, people wouldn't go to a job. A job interview would require for, I don't know, CV. It would be like, show me that what are your credentials at the workplace that I'm actually saved by you. It doesn't seem like there is representation. It doesn't seem like it's safe. It's a Russian roulette to try to work at the workplace. Show me there's not a trafficking ring at your workplace. You want to know about me? Defend my research. I was targeted. People checking tenants. Why are you checking your tenants? Why are you checking your tenants? The people that torture, the people that will loot your apartment Because you're checking your tenants, you're checking away the single mom, the dad that left the marriage and still struggles to pay for the children. You're checking out the people from housing. Then who are they going to bring to your property? Those very companies that check the tenants. They're going to loot your property. They're going to ruin your house and make you sell it. Why you check the tenants? Check the extortion calls. How come you became an estate owner? What children did you have to rape? If your estate is good, it should have a good feng shui for me to be thriving and successful. It should be safe and free for me. Am I safe in your estate? Because I had to run the previous one because of ritual abuse that MK often rapes. The aftermath of an Epstein. You want to tell me that all these people occupying the real estate and natural resources of the world by perpetuating trauma that would have made it way easier, if not for the traumas, would have been way easier to make a life while making a living. Job opportunities that are actually jobs, that are not some trafficking ring under guise. Food that is actually nourishing, not containing pesticides and whatnot, that and all kinds of chemicals that create cancer, that pollute the nervous system. Medicine. Can't go to a dentist. It's not only the fact that dentistry is expensive, it's also the fact that my dentist had to get an apprenticeship torturing children at an Epstein Island. How am I safe to do a root canal? It's not even the access to medicine. Because maybe if he didn't, my teeth would be white, not by coating. Because I'd be eating nourishing food, I'd be having a house and a land, I'd be traveling the world, seeing different perspectives. I'd be compensated, well compensated for my efforts at work. I wouldn't need to work this hard and I would be able to rest and relax deeper. I wouldn't have sexual traumas. Where is our looted life? The whole world is asking. The joy of living, to develop something that would change the face of the earth for a positive way. Do you know when assassination happens? It's not when somebody was ritually abused by a candidate, that the candidate to be assassin. It's when They're so abused that they see themselves as one. And in that instance, they have basically synchronicity in location. And then the command to assassin arises. Because they would carry the gun thinking it's a drill. This is why healthy rather than toxic relationships are so important. Because, and they create these synchronicities. But they create synchronicity by rape, and they create psychic abilities by rape rather than by embodiment. And then what happens? The person that would assassin, they're one. They walk as one. Their location draws, and then they prompt the order that will assassin. Because it's kind of like it's a one try, and that try is successful. And it's always going to be someone either from the same village, from the same people, from the same nationality. That's not kind of like somebody that is not even that much of an opposition. Or somebody that is from the group that the person was supposed to represent. If it was like somebody that was in favor of including minorities. And that the assassination in itself is a snuff film. It's ordered and filmed. That's why it always happens at the parking lot, at the street, so it would be a spectacle. To keep collapsing the frequency. And this is where they turn the frequency of war is about, yes, resources, natural resources, and so on, but it's about wealth redistribution from places that misused power to sovereignty. A lot of people say, I stand with Venezuela. Why do you stand with Venezuela? Did they not traffic children? Did they not? You can be say, I am sad that it's the government that has death in concentration camp and relies in its economic future on coal mines when the entire energy and technology is moving away from coal. That's doing that. That only shows me how susceptible Venezuela was to invasion to begin with. How many children were trafficked and raped so that they would traffic drugs? They traffic drugs through their literal genitals. The country that relies on coal mining in 2026 okay, is better at abolishing drug trafficking, which is child trafficking. It's not psychedelics to help recover from. Better than Venezuela. That's what it is. You want to stand for Venezuela? Stand against the trafficking cults in Venezuela. Beg the question, how come a country with concentration camps and coal mines in 2026 loots your country? I mean, they would need intelligence to loot the country. Well, what if Venezuela had housing first, independent of ability to work and believe in the patient? All these CIA, by the way, probably Hispanic children, would recover in Venezuela and would deliver a shit ton of information. But why, when they try to teach ESP, they do it through rape? And when people finally see something, oh, the church, the church, the church. What about the church? What is the church doing that is keeping you from defending your country with actual intelligence that is not rape and trafficking based? Cloning children, well, it means that it tries to compete with the crimes against humanity of US, and then US says, well, you can't beat us. Do you try to compete with the crimes against humanity of the empires, or do you try to compete with the human rights? If you because human rights are being eroded in United States. People are gonna. It's every o'clock. People are asking, what about the love that is actually loving? What about sexuality that is loving? Not to loot, not power, not standing in our power. We stood in our power. Look, the Epstein list is out. We're standing in our power. Okay, where's our land? Where's our resources? Where's our housing? Where's our life? Where is a society that is actually zero rape, zero slavery society? Where is that indoctrination? Because it seems to be, people seem to be indoctrinated to think that it's okay to rape children and then the child is a whore. Boy or girl, or intersex. They rape the child and say that the child is perversive. Isn't that how they created Marc Dutroux? And then they grow children. Aren't those children a match to be meeting with the Marc Dutroux? Echt zo. And what are they gonna do to when that happens? There was a father of Melissa. He didn't want to listen to Marc Dutroux. When Marc Dutroux talked about the network, I can't listen to his voice when he's talking. Why can't you listen to the guy that raped your daughter when he talks about the other people that could still rape your daughter and are not in prison? Are you one of those men that raped your daughter? Did you pay to rape your daughter? Is Melissa safe? That was in 2001. We are 2020, 28. It's Saturn return. to that begging the question regarding Melissa. It might even be her Saturn maturation or something. Or Rahu maturation. She could be my age. I don't remember if it was 2001 or 2, or because the Dutroux case was exposed, yes, in 1996. It's probably 2001, 2, one of the episodes that I was doing in the Dutroux trilogy. So Melissa was released from the Dutroux state to her loving father, who couldn't hear about Mark Dutroux talking about a network of offenders. He couldn't hear his voice suddenly. Couldn't hear his voice. What was the guy saying? Is there more people that may have raped your daughter? They're not in jail. Oh my God, I can't hear the voice of this person. If there is a network or something like that, we're in the end of the investigation. Melissa's loving father that she had to live with, upon being released from the Dutroux state. Melissa is probably around my age. But he can't say it. how how is the sexuality of a person that would enjoy torturing, starving girls to death and boys, and confining and molesting them? A child is born to the world. When in that child's life does it think that that would be such an exciting thing to do? Nobody begs the question. But that perversion is patent. Because if that guy likes doing those things and then he can get away with that, then he'll do everything. Coal mines at 2026, where everything is moving to other type of solar energy, hydro energy, things that are not coal based. But it's true. And by the way, you say, "Oh, Trump." No, I was not saying Trump. Trump can do nothing without the Congress. This Trump said he couldn't do it without the Congress. That's a shit ton of people with very weird sexuality in the Congress. Because obviously, we'll look at the decision. It's not creating jobs. Coal mines are dead camps. Unless United States is going to be Sweden and have a welfare state to pay the miners. The welfare state was to pay the miners because it's a very risky job, and it's kind of like, and then if people would have life insurance, housing, all the good conditions and so on, but then they put petroleum in the medicine, so it's like it's free healthcare, but there's petroleum in it. But it's all of our entire medicine. Dude, the science is science. Amazing. Okay. How think about it, whose idea was to put petroleum in the things that people take when they're sick? Must have been a shit ton of weird sexualities involved with that. You can't patent rosemary, so you patent the creation of pedos. By the way, the Rockefeller's family was known to use homeopathy. The thing that they say is now here is the funny part. As a person that looked into all the weird medicines, I did the body mind question in the medicines research. So I looked into all the weird medicines, the conventional ones, the non-conventional. There's nothing as funny as putting petroleum in the medicine. Probably homeopathy is better than that. And even holistic healers wonder about homeopathy. Like, what is that thing? It's not a plant teacher in this common sense of the word. It's kind of like it's the closest to placebo possible, but it would be the patterns within placebo that are um, of spirit form. So they use something like talismanic medicine. Now, in modern world, it's like they use nothing and it's better than what they sell. Now, something about this homeopathy thing is probably not really doing the thing because they still loot the entire world for. So as a researcher in the body mind question in the medicines, I have to attest that this homeopathy thing is either not practiced correctly or not yielding medicine, because if the people that are curated by homeopathy put petroleum in stuff, then there's something missing in the um, it doesn't look so healthy is what I'm saying. I don't know what do they put in the homeopathy stuff. But then homeopathy itself is not enough. They really have to like not rape children. No, think about it. When we I learned aromatherapy. So when you think about, you know, how do I basically sell to the people that have the wealth to provide for the people that don't have. So let's say fully priced, I don't know, essential oil blend, and then zero priced essential oil blend to a person that can't afford it. And then what if the fully priced is to people that run extortion cults and and they need that to keep doing that? And I'm like, that's not how essential oils work. Nee, לא עכשיו. And then what they do for a living is deprive the people that don't have the ability to pay of not only their ability to pay, but their love that is actually loving, sexuality that is actually loving and honoring. So that people won't have access to being a loving, happy, thriving human being. That's the meaning of the Epstein files.